The head of a weapons training program that crashed a PrideFest talks about his plans for his armed trainees to work alongside law enforcement when things get really bad.
Are you a militia?
A group of medical examiners is ditching a controversial cause of death. Does that mean that old cases in Colorado might get reopened? And the state is not using a tool that it has to predict how wildfires will grow and spread. Seems like that might be useful. So let's ask him about it on Next.
There's going to be more sunlight at the state capitol next year. The state house is preparing to settle a lawsuit from two of its own, two Democratic reps who sued, saying that both parties routinely ignore open meetings law and plan policies in secret. As part of this deal, House Democrats and Republicans say they'll change the way they do business. Democratic Representatives Elizabeth Epps and Bob Marshall allege that both Democratic and Republican caucuses held frequent secret meetings and used disappearing text messaging apps to decide whether bills should live or die. Essentially, they were deliberating outside the public's view. House leadership has agreed to provide public notice for all policy meetings and to make text discussions available upon request. That settlement still has to be approved by a judge. For a moment, after a shooting inside Denver's East High School, there was a community-wide focus on safety in Denver public schools. That was due in no small part to a whistleblower who came forward with insider concerns. The Denver School Board quickly, quite masterfully really, shifted the conversation to whether the whistleblower had violated district policies at his school. An investigation found that he did. And the school safety conversation was successfully sidelined. But today, former McAuliffe International principal Kurt Dennis sued DPS, saying that he was fired in retaliation, then publicly smeared. Kurt Dennis was fired in June after he told 9 News that DPS employees were being forced to do weapons pat-downs without proper training and that students charged with attempted murder were being put back in class. The district claims that what he said in the interview was a violation of student privacy laws. District leaders then came forward to accuse Dennis of using a seclusion room at McAuliffe to punish students of color. A district investigation found the room did not follow district policies, but the investigation did not find racial discrimination.
After he spoke to the media, an investigation, and I say that in air quotes, was launched by DPS against Kurt Dennis. DPS would hold press conferences calling him essentially a racist and a white supremacist, and he had no vehicle to defend himself.
All but one school board member, Scott Balderman, was named in this lawsuit. Balderman voted against Dennis's termination. He said the board's public statements about the fired principal violated their own confidentiality policies. DPS spokesman said they haven't been served with this lawsuit, so they can't comment on it. Our next conversation tonight is with the head of the firearms training group that organized a protest of Douglas County's PrideFest. Jimmy Graham is the founder and CEO of Able Shepherd. That company, based in Centennial, organizes weapons training, security assessments, and Bible studies on Christian end times prophecies. Able Shepherd denied being involved in the disruption of DougCo PrideFest, but emails show Able Shepherd organized the protest, calling what was going on there, quote-unquote, perverse agenda. Why did Able Shepherd deny being involved when you organized the disruption?
We're a small company, and I've got one email address, right? I don't know if we should have used a different email or these paid services and all that stuff. The question that I understood was this is an Able Shepherd event, meaning we pay our staff to go places? No, this was a bunch of friends of ours that agreed, and I said, I'm going, you're invited, and they showed up.
You've said that Able Shepherd is not just a Christ-centered business, but it's a Christ-first business.
Correct.
Is it a problem for a Christ-first business to bear false witness?
If they did that, it would be. Right?
You lied to the public about Able Shepherd's involvement in this. You organized the event and then afterwards said you weren't involved.
The twist that you're trying to do, I just disagree.
You said
we didn't pay people.
Able Shepherd was not involved, and yet you organized the gathering, the disruption. That's involved by any definition.
No, it's
not.
I understand your reach. I disagree.
Okay. When our next conversation with Able Shepherd CEO Jimmy Graham continues, I'll ask him about what a supportive county commissioner said about his group, calling them a well-regulated militia, and what he means when he says that his armed trainees are preparing to stand in the streets with law enforcement when it, quote, gets real bad. Colorado has a tool to predict how wildfires will grow and spread. but the state isn't using it. NCAR, the earth science researchers in Boulder, spent 5 years making this wildfire modeling software. They gave it to the state. The state decided not to use it. Our Steve Stager's along now after talking to an NCAR scientist who helped develop this. And they spent a lot of time on this, and they're just now reminding the state, hey, it's out there, guys, if you want to use it.
At a committee meeting, they were like, hey, just so you know, we developed this for you. This is called the Colorado Fire Protection System, designed because of a state law dating back to 2015, which funded NCAR's development of this wildfire software. NCAR handed over this program to the state during the pandemic. It uses weather data alongside geographic data to show firefighters and emergency planners how a fire will move. When I asked the state today why they're not using it, they told me they actually found a better real-time software developed in California, and that NCAR software was taking too long to model active situations for wildfire. But NCAR software could be useful when it comes to planning scenarios, like seeing how a fire will burn during a planned prescribed burn. Deputy Director Jason Knievel says the software can predict where smoke will move and if a planned burn might escape its boundaries.
The where and the when is really well understood. You just maybe have to understand a little bit better the weather conditions and what that means for the fire's behavior, because you don't want it to escape control. And even a controlled fire produces smoke. So you want to make sure that the smoke is not going to be at too high a concentration for nearby communities.
Colorado Center for Excellence for Advanced Technology Aerial Firefighting. I'm assuming they get funding for every word in their title. They say that they're currently working with NCAR to license the software for those uses. NCAR also suggested that this model could be used to simulate fires inside of actual communities under specific conditions to help to try to plan for when the worst might happen inside your community. If a fire were to spread, under what kind of weather conditions would things get bad? They say it could be used for that kind of advanced planning. But the state said today when they tried to use it, when NCAR handed it over, they found that it was taking too long to show and model how a fire would move, that the director of that extremely long center said that basically they would plug it in, it would take about an hour for it to model, and by that time the fire may have already moved to that area. Yeah,
I mean, that's a perfectly fair explanation. It's also a fair question to ask, are you using all the tools at your disposal? Because we think about Marshall Fire, Boulder County, they had emergency notification systems that they were not up and using yet.
Yeah, and it was relatively alarming to hear that hey, there's this great thing and it's up in the cloud if you want to use it.
Yep.
Now we just might use it for a different source, and we already have something doing that work already.
Thank you, Steve. Speaking of up in the clouds.
Me? I'm in the clouds. There's no clouds out there, you guys. It was beautiful. Plenty of blue skies today. And look at that, only 78 degrees, little taste of the fall season. Felt fantastic. We're in the 70s and 80s across the eastern plains with 60s and 70s up in the mountains. Really tough to find much cloud cover tonight on HD Doppler 9. That cold front that swung through yesterday, that allowed our temperatures to drop off. But this ridge of high pressure, as it rolls back in tomorrow, it's going to crank up the dial. Also, it's going to bring us some high levels of ozone. So just kind of keep that in mind for us tomorrow up and down the I-25 corridor. Plenty of sunshine. Hope you enjoy. Highs close to about 87, 88 here in Denver. Similar setup going out east and up into the mountains too. Look at this 7-day back to the low 90s for the end of the week. And then another cold front arrives, a chance for storms for Broncos Sunday and into early next week.
So you wouldn't need the DougCo Sheriff's permission?
I actually have more latitude and capability without it, right?
Abel Shepard, the folks who protested PrideFest, they insist they are not a militia. But if all hell breaks loose, their armed trainees are ready to take action, and they say they won't answer to the county sheriff. And a group of medical examiners wants to move past a controversial catch-all term for deaths that happen in custody. We'll check in with Colorado coroners to see if that means they're going to reopen old cases. The head of the firearms training group that disrupted DougCo PrideFest told the Douglas County Sheriff recently that he will want and need their armed trainees to back up his deputies, quote, if it gets real bad. I asked Abel Shepard CEO Jimmy Graham about how his armed citizens will operate and when they intend to enforce their moral and religious views. How do you see that playing out?
I believe throughout history there has been people, we're on the same team, we're another arm of that team. It's just not possible for a police department, sheriff's department, fill in the blank. If things did get bad, like has happened in any civilization.
Do you think we're headed that way?
I do.
If you were to operate in an armed capacity alongside Douglas County Sheriff's deputies, would you be doing that under the authority of the DougCo Sheriff?
I'd be doing it under the authority of the Constitution.
So you wouldn't need the DougCo Sheriff's permission?
I actually have more latitude and capability without it, right? Being an officer, being in the SEAL teams, a lot of restrictions. Being in the CIA as a bodyguard, a lot of restrictions. Being a sheriff, a lot of restrictions. We have a lot more liberties and freedoms and capability as a citizen, actually.
Republican County Commissioner George Teal, who's a supporter of Able Shepherd, says that your company is a well-regulated militia. Are you a militia?
We're not a militia.
What differentiates what you do to protect the community versus what a militia would do?
So, I think that, again, militia has been changed. Words get changed throughout history, and I think it's a negative thing that people think. I think that it is, I truly believe it's my job to protect my children. It's my job to educate my children. We pay taxes so that other individuals, professional individuals like police and teachers, can join me in that vision for my children, right? Align with my values and do that. That's what I think. So I think that people, we've been very comfortable. We just haven't really needed those skills. But when people are threatened with violence of any kind, I think they should know how to do that. I think should be capable of defending their loved ones.
Is there anything else that you'd like to tell Coloradans about when and where they will see Able Shepherd in the future?
I don't know. They'll see Jimmy Graham standing for what I believe is right and sustainable. So I will be standing for children. Somebody's got to do it. One of the objectives was to encourage people to find their feet, including local sheriffs. Like at some point, somebody's got to stand and say, this is what I believe, even though it's not popular.
My full 20-minute conversation with Able Shepherd's Jimmy Graham is up on the next YouTube channel. There we discuss the multiple groups and agencies distancing themselves from Able Shepherd after their PrideFest protest, like the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office and Arapahoe Community College. Graham says there are more organizations cutting ties with them, but he would not say which ones.
Well, there is no excited delirium, so what's the cause of death now?
It's the controversial cause of death that medical experts say doesn't really exist. So does that mean that some old cases in Colorado will get a fresh look? Excited delirium, the cause of death that often seemed to show up after someone died being restrained by police. The term's basically been dropped in Colorado. But our Chris Vanderveen will continue his investigation as long as families here and across the country are still told that that's how their loved one died.
Okay, what's going on? There's an old guy. He's broken several windows.
Of the 150-plus names on our list,
Last name is Burns.
his is the first, Patrick Burns.
Patrick J. John Burns.
2010, Springfield, Illinois.
We're going to try to get him on a stretcher and take him over to the hospital.
Deputies responded to this home with bodies and tasers.
Suspect's been tased multiple times.
Many while deputies held Burns prone or face down.
Yeah, he was my friend. He was the best man at my wedding. I was the best man at his.
When excited delirium turned up on his brother's autopsy report,
And I'd never heard of excited delirium.
Richard Burns did what you or I might have done. He researched the term and noted it's a mysterious condition marked by severe agitation, superhuman strength, and occasional sudden death.
So excited delirium had these symptoms which didn't seem to make sense to me. And this just didn't sound like Pat's behavior.
And so his family hired an outside forensic pathologist who said excited delirium didn't kill Patrick. Law enforcement did.
He came to the conclusion that Pat died of positional asphyxia.
Due to restraint in a prone position while hogtied. Not that it mattered. When a city clerk finally signed the death certificate, the original theory remained. Excited delirium. That helped clear all officers of any wrongdoing, as it banished Patrick's name to the pile of other names we found largely ignored, seldom mentioned. That is, until this year.
Well, there is no excited delirium, so what's the cause of death now?
In March, NAME, or the National Association of Medical Examiners, the premier professional organization for medical examiners and death investigation, became the latest medical organization to ditch use of the term excited delirium. It was a seismic decision. Armed with it, Richard Burns asked the new coroner to review his brother's death. That coroner hired 2 more forensic pathologists.
Both of those board-certified forensic pathologists concluded that there was no excited delirium.
Both found what the expert hired by the Burns family found in 2010. This was no mysterious medical condition.
Had Pat's death certificate amended, so now Pat's death certificate reads that Pat died of positional asphyxia.
The first name on our list to lead to that, but potentially not the last.
So wherever you go here, it's a beautiful county.
Back home, we asked all of Colorado's coroners if, in light of the name decision, would they consider ditching the term too. The coroner here responded right away.
It was just this weird catchphrase that was constantly being thrown around, and I was like, this is not a real thing.
Emil Sante told us what critics have argued for years, that excited delirium had become a convenient excuse for death of someone in law enforcement custody. He doesn't have a case to review here, but told us any coroner in Colorado shouldn't hesitate to review any and all excited delirium cases.
If there are cases out there that you know are inaccurate, I think it's incumbent that you get into it and fix it.
61 out of 64 Colorado coroners responded to our questions. Not one said they would still use the term excited delirium.
Will you use excited delirium as a cause of death moving forward?
I will not use excited delirium as a cause of death moving forward.
Mesa County's coroner also told us coroners statewide can easily review their excited delirium deaths.
It can be done. It's really not hard to amend a death certificate. It's just paperwork, but yeah, it certainly can be done. Yeah.
Only 7 county coroners told us they have no intention of reviewing deaths tied to excited delirium. One of those coroners.
Excited delirium is just a word that's used as a cover-up for the police.
The county coroner who concluded excited delirium killed Avina DeLuna's father in 2017.
My father had a broken nose, and I could physically see the shoe imprint embedded in my father's cheek. So I knew there was more to the story than what was being said.
Alex Gutierrez died in Adams County prone and underneath a pile of officers, one of 2 to die that way that year in Adams County. Both times, excited delirium conclusions led to no charges and little media attention.
You've tried to get people to pay attention to your father's case for years, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Nobody was held accountable.
No.
The case went away.
Yes.
Recently, DeLuna sent this letter to the Adams County coroner asking her to review her father's death. It's the same coroner who has refused to do an interview with us for months, saying she must prioritize her correspondence and engagement with the community instead. That commitment has so far not included responding to any of DeLuna's questions.
Did excited delirium have anything to do with your father's death?
Absolutely not.
Chris Vanderveen, 9 News.
Last year, in one of the most exhaustive studies on the use of the term excited delirium, a group known as Physicians for Human Rights concluded that the term is rooted in racist and unscientific origins. Here in Colorado, we know coroners use the term more than 24 times to explain those sudden deaths. We're back with your feedback next. Holy cow, a lot of feedback about our interview with the head of the Able Shepherd Tactical Training Group. Addie didn't think that we should have aired it. She said, giving them a platform for their hate. Good job. Keith says, I'm a gun owner. Gun groups like this ruin it for people like me. Jonathan says, not sure which is worse, lying under oath or lying to Kyle Clark on camera. It is 100% lying under oath, Jonathan, because that quite often has consequences for people. If somebody lies to me on camera and you see it, it only has consequences if the public decides that it will. Kelly says, you work hard, you defend democracy, you love your fellow humans. Your talent confronting and challenging hypocrisy is epic. That's what we try to do.